Ripple has partnered with Riyadh Bank's Geo Finance. The deal will see Ripple technology used in Saudi and Arabian financial services. Now, as part of Saudi's Vision 2030, fintechs in Saudi Arabia are encouraged to explore blockchain technology. This is a massive opportunity for Ripple and XRP. Stay tuned. So, welcome back to another edition of DHN Crypto. I'm your host, as always, Wade Teamer. Today, we're unpacking the recent relationship between Ripple and Riyadh Bank's Geo Finance. So, this deal came together thanks to Riyadh Bank's innovation unit. Early in 2024, they initially began talking with Ripple and they signed an MOU, a memorandum of understanding to study blockchain technology. Now, with Ripple being the primary partner, this means the XRP ledger was directly studied here. And the announcement that we got this week indicates that they're ready to go live with something. There's no telling what that could be. Later in this video, I'll share some ideas that I have. I think you're going to be interested in that. But on the XRP ledger, they're going to get into cross-border payments, tokenization, as well as some custody services. And now that Ripple has launched Ripple Treasury, the extension of the G Treasury acquisition, they're in even better position to support these custody services. Now, in addition to that, they mentioned tokenized deposits, which we know is a very big thing this year, as well as stablecoin payments. And the primary stablecoin will be RLUSD. Now, the benefit to the XRP ledger is, I believe, the RLUSD that will be used within Saudi Arabian's financial services will be RLUSD that is natively issued and redeemed on the ledger. That is going to go a long way towards further adoption for the XRP ledger. Now, let's add a little context here because the Vision 2030 is something that we have talked about on this channel for years. Saudi Arabia's vision for 2030 is simply their plan to modernize their entire financial infrastructure. They really plan to modernize their entire economy. They look to use blockchain-based technology to create new economic and national policies, ladies and gentlemen. So in a country like the United States, where blockchain and crypto is, as of right now, used as a political talking point, other countries like Saudi Arabia are actually implementing blockchain technology for real use cases. And with this relationship, it places XRP directly in the center. Now, Riyadh Bank is no joke. They're the third largest bank in Saudi Arabia, according to assets under management. As of January 2026, they're sitting at $130 billion. So, like I mentioned, they're no joke here. The downside, potentially, because we are in a decentralized world, 51% of the company is owned by the Saudi Arabian government. Now, depending on how you want to look at that, it could be an advantage or it could be a disadvantage. You definitely have centralized influences in this partnership. And depending on how deep you are into crypto, you may see that as a hindrance. Well, let me give you the silver lining because you are right. However, with it being government controlled mostly, we know that things should move a little bit faster. And once the government endorses blockchain, Ripple, and XRP, that's going to bring more retail in. What I think will happen over the next 12 to 16 months is that we'll see little glimpses where retail will be drawn back. It will be small at first, but as things compound and we get 12 months out, it's going to cause a much bigger reaction. I can assure you of that. Now, another benefit to it being government controlled is the Saudi Arabian government has just created a sandbox to test other blockchain related technologies. And if you know about some of the networks that work in that area, we're talking Hedera, Stellar, XDC, things of that nature. So the potential is really big. To that point, let's get into some of the blockchain adoption that has already taken place in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has been involved with blockchain technology dating as far back as 2017. Back then, their regulations were very, very tight. They didn't trust the funny color money that they used to call it. But things have dramatically changed. And as I mentioned before, they want to implement blockchain utility for economic and national policies. Back in early 2025, Saudi Arabia created the Saudi Arabia AI and Blockchain Center. One of the initial members of that center was actually a Cardano based asset known as Cody. So that shows you guys these some of these altcoins that are down deep in the list on coin market cap are still very important and you need to keep your eyes on them. Cody, that asset made virtually no noise the last 4 years. Now they're tied in with one of the biggest economies that has gotten into blockchain to date. So, in addition to that, September of last year, Saudi Al Wal Bank, which is their national central bank, partnered with Chainlink. Are you surprised? Guess what they're using it for? The Oracle data that Chainlink provides. They're also making use of the Chainlink runtime environment, which is essentially a supercharger for blockchain operations. After that, well, a little bit before that, this was a big story. Remember, in 2024, if I'm not mistaken, the Hashgraph Association set up a $250 million deal with the Saudi Ministry of Investment. Remember how many people laughed at that? Hard to laugh now, isn't it? Now, we also have XDC connections as well, because Saudi Arabia is fully behind an initiative called MLETR. This is the model law for electronic transferable records, where in the payments world for XRP, we had to deal with the security situation. For XDC, their biggest barrier is the legalization of digital trade documents. This MLETR is the framework that nations are adopting in order to legalize these digital documents. And as of today, about 70% of modern economies follow MLETR. And on top of that, you have a company, Comtech Gold, which is tokenizing gold on the XDC network. You can guess where they're getting the gold. To that point, with gold being at all-time highs, it is time to take a look at who's tokenizing gold the most. I think that'll be another opportunity as well, another good trade you can make. In addition to that, guys, we have our favorite, Stellar XLM, who back in 2018 became the first halal Sharia compliant blockchain network. That simply means that transactions and products, services that are built on XLM and operate in Saudi Arabia will basically be fully compliant under their financial laws. Tack on the fact that the biggest crypto exchange in the business in the form of Binance has one of their largest user bases in Saudi Arabia. Pair Binance's user base with Stellar's anchors. Saudi Arabia knows exactly what they're doing, and they have been very meticulous and calculated about which networks they allow to do business there. So let's look at what could potentially come from this. Let's wrap this up. How will this impact Ripple and XRP? Well, it'll be one of the few altcoins in the region, as I just explained to you. And in addition to that, this, unlike other partnerships that you could say are based off the hype of getting into crypto, this one is aligned with a much bigger vision. So any network that begins to work in accordance with Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030, oh, you can best believe they're going to be supported. And they're going to be supported substantially. In addition to that, guys, this is another example of the power of open blockchain. Riyadh could build directly on the XRP ledger and Ripple not know a single thing about it. But that's okay, because if it weren't for Ripple establishing the verbal relationship in the first place, they would have never most likely been even aware of the XRP ledger. And with it being open, this is an argument that I will be making and standing on this year for the XRP ledger. We are closer to another household name joining the XRP ledger. Now, I know I read the comment a couple days ago where a gentleman says, what about BNY, Franklin Templeton, and all the other banks? I'll ask this question again. How many of you knew about these places before you got into crypto? That's the point I'm trying to make. We need a name that nobody would see coming. A name that isn't synonymous with finance or technology. We need a boring company to get involved and change the entire paradigm. I did a little bit of digging. You have a company called Al-Marai, which is supply chain, which is essentially like Walmart, Kroger, Myers over there. Then you have Saudi Telecom. They specialize in wireless connections, telecommunications. What's stopping either one of those companies from, in the future, working directly with the XRP ledger? Thanks to this relationship with Riyadh's Geofinance, absolutely nothing now. So with that, guys, let me know what you think down in the comments. How big will this be for the XRP ledger? I also want to ask, how confident are you in the market as well during this time? I know things are tough, but listen, my vision going forward, ladies and gentlemen, for this market is after we get through this dark period, which is what we are in, after the memes have been flushed out, all of the scams and all of the phony KOLs and the hype beasts, once they're all flushed out, I don't think there will be anything stopping this market. I don't. So with that, guys, I love to hear your thoughts. Also, don't forget to check out the Hustler's Guide to Blockchain Technology, available on all your digital formats. Link will be in the description as well as the pinned comment. With that, y'all know what time it is. If that money is digital, so is the hustle.